Hey friends, welcome back to the cabin. Today I wanted to bring you along as I make a batch of milk kefir and share with you the wonderful benefits as well. Milk kefir is a cultured dairy product that dates back thousands of years. It's an old world method of preserving milk. But one of the greatest benefits of the milk kefir is that it's loaded with gut-friendly probiotics. And in the Western world that we live in today, the modernized society, our tendency to overprocess foods, fast foods, over antibiotics, overuse of antibiotics, I should say, our gut microbiome has taken a hit. So many facets of our health are tied in with our gut microbiome. We get an overload of bad bacteria. We don't have the correct percentage ratio of good bacteria, and it really unbalances our whole system. It can affect us physically, not just our digestive system. There's many areas physically that the gut microbiome plays a part. It can also affect us mentally and emotionally. To make your milk kefir, you just need three things. You want a clean pint mason jar with a lid. You want a little bit less than 2 cups of fresh store-bought milk. And later on in the video, I'll talk about different milks and how milk kefir is affected by those. And also, you want fresh, healthy milk kefir grains. There can be some confusion when we talk about the milk grains. They're not actually grains. They're not like a wheat or oat. They are actually a culturing medium, something that we would maybe compare to a SCOBY in kombucha. SCOBY stands for symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. So the milk kefir grains are very similar to that. And what happens when you put them in the milk, they're going to feed off the sugars and the nutrition in the milk, and they're going to give off those powerful probiotics. Those probiotics are going to expand in the milk, and that's going to give it a creaminess and a little bit of a tart taste. But the best thing it does is it's going to proliferate in good bacteria and yeast, which is what our gut is so hungry for now. So let's go ahead and get this all put together. So our grains, you can see there's a little bit of creaminess on them. I've used these grains quite a bit, and that is actually just some of the thick kefir that kind of clings to it. There's nothing wrong with that. That's actually very, very good. It's a good sign that it's healthy. But I'm going to go ahead and dump those right there in the jar. This is so simple. And you're just going to pour your milk. Let's see if I can do this. I'm not doing this without making a mess. I was going to try not to make a mess, but that's okay. We love our kitchen. And that is basically it. I'm not going to stir it. I'm not going to do anything. The grains are in the bottom, and they will, as it cultures, they will actually gravitate up to the top. Now the lid, I'm just going to put the lid on just till it, not snug at all, just until it kind of feels like it's almost snug, just touching the top rim. So you probably see the gallon jug of kombucha that I've got over there brewing. So what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to set this jar of milk kefir over there to ferment, because I don't like mixing my ferments because they're very unique in their properties. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to set it over on the other side of the kitchen. And also, if you have sourdough, you want to make sure to apply that same rule. You want to set it where it's kind of in its own space, give it its own space, so you're not I don't like to use the word cross-contamination, but it is kind of adulterating what one ferment or the other, and you want it to stay pure to what they are. So what I'm going to do is set this on the other side of the kitchen in kind of a dark corner. It doesn't have to be dark, but you want to just kind of protect it from direct sunlight and real harsh light. Ideally, you want the temperature to be around 77 degrees to have good fermentation, but we live and work in real kitchens, and so those temperatures can fluctuate a good bit from time to time. So what I find is if it's a little cooler than that, it's going to take longer for your kefir to ferment, to culture. And if it's much warmer than that, then it's going to ferment, culture much faster, and it may even begin to separate into layers with a layer of thick kefir and a layer of whey. Now that's not a problem. The tartness can be a little overwhelming for some people. I just stir it all back in there together because sometimes time gets away and it goes a little further than what I really wanted it to. And you can just stir it back down in there and strain out your grains, and you can use it as you would if it had been a little bit less cultured. But if it's a little too tart and you feel like you may have ruined it, you haven't. You can make something called kefir cheese. Now, I'll address that in an upcoming video. It's very simple to make, and it makes a great substitute for sour cream. So we'll cover that in an upcoming video. But once your kefir has fermented, then what? You know, you've got kefir grains in there, and they're just going to keep on and keep on. What they're doing is they're gaining nutrition, they're eating, they're growing, and kefir grains do multiply. They will expand and multiply in a healthy environment. So that's what you're striving for, is that healthy environment, which gives you the healthy milk kefir. So what you need to do though is to strain those grains out to stop further or slow it way down. It's still going to continue to culture just a little bit, but you're going to slow it way down by straining your kefir grains out. And so I'm going to show you how we do that and talk about it as we go along. So this is a jar of kefir that's just finished up. It's about where I want to start straining it. So we're going to go ahead and open it, and you'll be able to see, hopefully, that there is some creaminess to the top. This is a little bit sooner than what I like. I like them to go just a tad bit longer, but we're trying to fit the timing in with the filming. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you how we're going to strain out the grains. So you can see how creamy it is. It does have some nice creaminess to it. It's very much similar to buttermilk, cultured buttermilk that you would find in the store. You can see that, you know, that it's got a little bit more, it's a lot thicker than milk. So what I like to do is just to move the grains around. I want to be a little bit gentle with them while I'm helping to get that kefir on through the strainer. So you can see those grains contrasted against the red spatula. They're thick, they're fluffy, and they're healthy. This is exactly what you're looking for. So what if you need to store your grains? What if you're not culturing every day? So I'm going to show you how we do that. So I've got this small jar here, and it's got about 3/4 full of some fresh store-bought milk. So I'm simply just going to put my grains in this. Just like that. Okay? And I'm going to go ahead and seal this. And I'm going to set this in the refrigerator. So now I'm going to share with you some hot tips. We just strained our kefir grains off, and I showed you how I store them in the small jar. Well, if you find that you're not going to be culturing but maybe once a week or maybe once every 2 weeks, you will need to store them in a larger jar with more fresh store-bought milk, because they're going to, even though they're going to slow down in the refrigerator, they are alive and they're going to consume the sugars and the nutrition in that milk. So you want more to sustain them while they're laying dormant in the refrigerator. So that's something very important to keep in mind. And also, another tip is, I've got to go back and add it to my jar that I just started culturing, but I add a prebiotic to my fresh jar of culture with the grains in it, because this prebiotic is also going to feed the probiotics. So that's going to help keep your grains super powerful, and also your fermentation is going to be even more probiotic rich, and it's going to be even better for your health, your gut health, and your overall health. So I'll leave a link in the description box to where I found this, and also I'll leave a link to a good source for the milk kefir grains. So while we're still talking about grains, I want to stress something very important with you. You want to make sure that you never, ever rinse your grains with water, of any kind of water. No tap water, no well water, no bottled water, anything. Never rinse them, because what you're doing is you're rinsing the probiotics down the drain, and your grains will eventually be rendered useless. So never rinse your grains. You saw in the earlier clip where mine were kind of creamy looking and had a buildup of the kefir on them. That is perfectly fine and perfectly normal, and it's a good sign that you have healthy milk kefir grains. If you feel like that you just have to rinse them, because I understand that sometimes things can look a little over the top as far as that, you can rinse them in a little fresh cow's milk and then store them in more fresh cow's milk. So let's talk about milk and the different types of milk that are out there. I've had some questions concerning nut milks, raw milk, goat's milk, so let's try to cover all those right now. So I'm going to start with the nut milks. Milk kefir grains are not conducive for making nut milk kefir with an asterisk. I'm going to give you an asterisk on that. You can do it, but not exclusively. I would do it sporadically, because what's happening is the probiotics are going to starve away. They're going to starve because it's a different environment than what they were formed in, so that it's foreign to them, and so they're going to struggle. You can get away with it from time to time, but I would lean very heavy on your regular milk kefir to keep them going. I wouldn't do it exclusively. Now, when we talk about milk, I'm normally talking about store-bought fresh milk, whole milk. I do whole milk. I haven't done any other 2%, 1%, or skim, because I just believe in whole milk. So when we're back to milking a cow, which we aren't now, right now, I will eventually want to make my kefir with raw milk, raw cow's milk. And that can be done, but there's a process to get you to that point. What you want to do is to take your kefir that you're making with your store-bought milk, and you want to do a ratio of maybe 4 to 1, with the 1 being your raw cow's milk. And then as you keep culturing, you will keep swapping that over. Your percentages will start going from mostly store-bought milk to mostly raw cow's milk, and you'll be able to gauge that by how thick and creamy your kefir is. If you go too fast, it may balk and not ferment very well, so you know to just back it off. And you want to do that for the same reason that we're not doing nut milk. Well, it's a little different because the milk is milk, but cow's milk has a lot of good bacteria in it. Raw cow's milk has a lot of good bacteria in it, and if you take and use that exclusively, it's probably going to shock your grains because they're not used to that much of a buffet, you know, so it may overwhelm them. So you're going to kind of gradually build them up to it. Same thing with goat's milk. You want to transition over from your store-bought fresh milk to your raw or your pasteurized goat's milk. The reason that store-bought milk, and that's readily available to everyone, the reason that it's used for the kefir is because that's what everybody has. But pasteurized cow's milk is basically a dead food. All of the bad bacteria, or the majority of the bad bacteria, has been killed, but so has the majority of the good. And that's why you have to transition when you're doing raw milks. And then the goat milk is even different. So you see how that you have to transition that over. So it's a very simple process. Takes a few fermentations and then you're good to go. As you can see, making milk kefir at home is a very simple process that will reward you with lots and lots of those great probiotics that is so good for our digestive health and our overall health. If you found value in this video, don't forget to leave us a thumbs up. And if you're not a subscriber, we would love to have you subscribe and be on this journey with us. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you'll be reminded anytime we upload a video. And before I leave you, I want to share these beautiful words with you. Don't ever forget that your Heavenly Father loves you. And we'll see you on the next video. God bless.